Okay, we're talking with Martin Barras, who's the Martin Barras, who is a Quebecer who has been for a number of years now the head coach of the Australian track program. He's also spent the last little while working with MacKinnon and Travis Smith, the Canadian sprinters and team sprinters. So, can you tell us a little bit about that, Martin?
Listen, probably the first one that came to my attention is Travis. He sort of popped out of nowhere, and particularly through the course of last season, almost immediately established himself at the very best level internationally. That one way or another, regardless if it's someone from the same country as you come from or not, attracts a fair bit of attention. He struck me as the first Canadian for a long time, track sprinting Canadian, that had the same sort of engine that the very best guys in the world have. So that's how he first came to my attention. And then just from hanging around with the team, sort of became aware of Cam. Cam is probably a different proposal. Probably doesn't come with the same amount of talent that Travis does. But as you said, we've had him in training for about a month in November, December in Australia, and I was actually very impressed with Cam in the way that he approaches himself, the way he progresses through training, how hard he goes, and he's actually got quite a good level already. I believe he'll need a bit of time to develop. He's a very good bike rider.
Now, as you know, besides sprinting, they're also working on the team sprint, and the program's under a little bit of pressure to improve.
The program's always under pressure, isn't it?
They're under some pressure to improve, or else funds will go elsewhere.
Yep.
I know. What's your opinion watching them and seeing? Do you think that they merit staying with it for a while, and we will get better? Or
yeah, no, I think so. I believe so. If you look at programs that are, you wouldn't call them young or new, but the reality of it is that the Canadian program hasn't been at the top echelon for quite a while. As a program, we might have individual riders like Gino or Travis, for that matter, who've been there. But as a program, it's very small, it's very new, it's very young, and very often it takes a long time to develop individuals. It takes a long time to develop people in individual disciplines, experienced disciplines like sprinting in particular, or scratch racing, points racing, where you need to race and race and race and get a lot of opportunities. But team events in particular, team sprint, team pursuit, on the road many years ago, the team time trial, are very, very good vehicles to develop these guys in the first place, because tactically they're very simple events to master. The biggest issue I see with the Canadian program at the moment is that it lacks a critical mass. You have 3 guys, or sort of there, where the reality of it is that if you want to run it successfully, you probably need 5 or 6 guys. And then there's a dynamic that develops in the group, and that helps the group to progress forward. So that's probably the biggest question, but there's no doubt in my mind that team sprint for the male sprinting program would be the best vehicle in the short term for them to draw themselves up in the international echelon.
Great. Now, one last question. I mean, obviously, we're starting to get well into the Beijing Olympic cycle.
Yep.
Anything in particular that you see happening over the next 18 months, or any riders that we should be watching?
Well, again, to my mind, very clearly, Travis is top of the line simply because he's been there. He hasn't won any major international races, but the Commonwealth Games indicate that he could be compared with some very, extremely good bike riders. So that in itself, I think, is worthy of support. I think that's the trap that Canadian cycling at large tends to fall into, is that they'll just target one individual, get on the back of it, and Bob's your uncle. That's a program. But in the short term, or short to medium term, which is essentially what Beijing is, yes, that's probably where the best opportunity is. You look at people like Cameron. Cameron will need a couple of years to develop. It's just a matter if he's going to get the opportunity. And in the greatest scheme of things, again, you come back hopefully with a bit of success, a bit of exposure from these guys. You can attract more guys in that particular group. The same applies to Gina or Mandy, who have had results internationally, but hopefully that can draw more people, more women, more support into the program to help expand.
Thank you very much, Martin.
Pleasure.